What is up, Smashers? Guess what? We are doing all kinds of fun stuff, hanging out at Delta. I almost said CSA because I was talking to Jose about that. That's Jose, by the way. He's resident badass, and so's Gabby. She's badass. And check this out. You guys have all seen that. I'm making him miserable because I'm making him do the mobility the right way. But what the cool part is, that's some pretty good mobility. And you know what's funny is he's like 71 years old. You'd never guess. No, that's pretty legit. He's gonna do today's ugly workout. So we're gonna be talking about hamstrings. Just hamstrings, and that's it, nothing else. Plain old hamstrings. You know why? Because they're neglected, they're super tight, and they chew up all your mobility doing everything else. And a lot of times what happens with the hamstrings is, I'm gonna get out of the way, I don't wanna get in the way of stretching. So I'll hang out over here. What happens with the hamstrings is, the hip flexors hijack hamstring mobility. I'm trying to get my, there we go. My rudimentary camera stand put in place, but they hijack, hip flexors hijack hamstring mobility because what happens is the hamstrings are gonna close up and extend, right? And the hip flexors are gonna flex and mute up that pelvis. So what ends up happening is it's an agonist-antagonist, so they start arguing with each other. But if you have what's a really funky anterior pelvic tilt, you're gonna hijack all your hamstring flexibility. You can stretch those hamstrings all day long. They won't get any more supple or loose, and you won't free up that pelvis, which means all your lifts are gonna suffer. You're gonna drop into a squat, you're gonna have bad form, you're gonna pitch your pelvis forward when you do your squat, and then you're gonna wobble down into a butt wink on the bottom, which shears up that lumbar spine. You're gonna close up your knees, you're gonna go into a valgus position with your knees because the adductors and the hamstrings are all pasted together, and the last thing is you're gonna get funky low back pain. So how about we just clear all that up? We're only doing 3 things today, it's super easy. Probably one of the fastest mobilities ever. But first thing we're gonna do is what's called a high rig. So we take the camera, put it down, find the rig, get rid of the fly that's bugging me the whole time. You can do this in a doorway. Ideally, you want to do it on a rig. All you're going to do is you're going to glue your low back to the ground. So I'm basically hollowed out. I'm flattening my low back on the ground. I'm locking out the knee, dorsiflexing the foot. Start with this bent. Once you have everything in place, I'm grabbing the rig. I'm just going to extend the leg. I'm going to load up the pelvis with some shear, and I'm going to camp out like this for how long? 2 minutes, and call it a day. When you're done, do the same thing on the other side. That's number 1. Now the cool part is, check this out. I'm going to show you what to do to turn off everything that's inhibiting or turning on the, forcing the hamstrings to engage. So when the hamstrings are partially engaged, say running at about 20%, the problem is you can't stretch them, you can't get them to be mobile. So here's what you do. You recruit everything else. So we'll do this. You force contraction of the hip flexors and the midline. So all you do is you take a band. This is a light band. You're gonna lock it up. So I'm forcing engagement of my midline, and I'm just gonna take my hand with my leg, and I'm gonna bring it up and then back down. Bring it up and then back down. So I'm gonna get a lot more range of motion. So I can get even a little further this way. I'm gonna load up. I'm coming off the ground. I'm taking my leg, and I'm gonna bring it up, hold, and then back down. Same thing on the other side. Do that. How long do we do it? 2 minutes of work. I'll do it one more time so you can see exactly what I'm doing without getting all funky in my range of motion. So load up the midline, legs are loaded up, knees are locked out, feet are dorsiflexed, come all the way up and all the way down. You're gonna find you have a lot more range of motion in your hamstring, and you unload everything else that way. That's number 2. Number 3 is peeling all the tissue away, and this is gonna suck. So you take a barbell, run it across the rig, and we're just gonna start high and work our way down. Hang the leg over the barbell. This is a 35-pound bar. Why? Because it's smaller and it hurts more. It's gonna have less surface area with the same amount of weight. So I'm leaning on this. This is right on the ischial tuberosity, just below it actually. And I'm just gonna find that hot spot, and then I'm just gonna start kicking in and out. I'm gonna go inside, go outside, and I'm gonna work my way all the way down the belly of that hamstring until I get to just above the knee. When I'm done, call it a day, do the same thing on the other side, and that's it. You wanna clean up your hamstrings? That's all you gotta do. It's really that simple. Hey, listen, I'm Trev, SmashweRx, hanging out at Delta. We gotta tell Jose, he's gotta put on a shirt.